This is Erik Johnson with Thinkwell Coffee. We are coming to you today with our roasting series number 2. And this series is focused all on the environment, and that is what we focus on. It's the primary factor when we roast coffee is what's the environment, how is it being affected, how do we change the environment to get the beans to do what we want them to do. We're showing you several different roasts, different profiles. This one that we're going to do right now is going to be a little bit higher roast temperature. We're going to go up to about 416, 417 finish roast temperature. So there's going to be some smokiness in this. I'm choosing the bean from the Congo. This bean, when you get to the 416, this bean is just phenomenal. Like there's so much going on. It's certain beans really are highlighted at different roast temperatures. 416, I love this bean. I thought we would end on this roast today because I'm going to show you, most roast profiles, and when I say a roast profile, I'm just talking about the way that we roast coffee, how we're applying heat over time and looking at the bean, how it's charted on a graph of time and temperature. Most roast profiles have one main arc to them. Now, it's a good, safe way to go, and it can be really effective, but this way that I have found I really like on something like this one is I'm going to do 2 arcs. So we're going to get the initial arc. We're gonna level it out and get it to kind of to sit there in the development phase. We're going to push it again, and this is going to be a slow, steady push through first crack and bringing it all the way. I don't want it to stall out once first crack has happened. That is something that happens a lot in roasting coffee, is that after first crack, there's this huge shift that's happening for the first, let's say, 10 degrees, 7 degrees, and then the roast will stall out there. Now that's okay if you're trying to have a low roast temperature, finish roast temperature, you're trying to have it low. But if you're trying to get up to 407 or 412 or 416, you don't want it to stall. So you gotta find your way of how do I push this thing. Now, every roaster, the machine itself is different, so you've gotta know your roaster. This is a method that I really like with this roaster. So I'm gonna use 4.5 pounds of Congo in this batch. Now, that's a pound more than a couple of the other roasts that I did, and I'm trying to have there be more mass because it's going to even out the development more. When you have a larger mass of coffee in the drum, it changes how flavor is developed, what flavors are developed, and I want this Congo to be a bit more even, a bit more sweet, a bit more well-rounded, and it's going to have this backdrop, like these edges of acidity, cola, blackberry. So that's what we're going to go for. Okay, so we're going to start this roast in the 380s, the low 380s. That's where we're going to start. We're going to charge the drum with the beans there and get it going. So 4.5 pounds of Congo, starting at 383. There we go. Now I'm gonna get this thing, I'm gonna start at 9.5 inches of flame here, okay? Now, I'm gonna pay attention to our environmental temperature probe. We're gonna push that up till it gets to around 420 degrees. So it's gonna drop, go down, turn around, and start going back up. It's gonna get to 420 degrees, and that's where we're gonna level off the environmental temperature. I'm going to level it off there so that I still have enough headroom to be able, we're going to bring that environmental temperature up. The beans are going to have to follow it. Now once these, they're going to get pushed right away and then they'll level out, but then I'm leaving enough room in my environment to be able to push another 25 degrees up, which will then cause this to push up to that finished temperature I'm trying to get it to. So, we're gonna just watch, see where things are turning around at. and adjust our flame. Now, airflow. So all of these things, we're doing this because we want to think about the environment. We want to make these changes according to the environment, not according to rate of rise, not according to any other factors. Our airflow changes the pressure in this drum, which changes how your flame control maneuvers the beans in the roast. Okay, so since I'm going to do a high temp coffee, since I have 4.5 pounds of mass in here, I am going to open up the airflow earlier. It's going to clear out the chamber. It's going to make more space. I can push them, and there's not going to be as much pressure in that drum. Okay, so I'm just going to it's probably going to be 15 seconds. I'm going to open this up, but our environmental temperature has already turned around. So has our bean temperature. That's cool. That's just how I want it. And now after those have turned around, things are progressing nicely. I'm going to just open this just a crack. Right there. All right, I've opened up that space. I can have more pressure. Ooh, you hear that? That's a rock. There are rocks in beans, people. You gotta watch out for those. Gotta watch out for the rocks. Okay. That's nice. That's a good cup of coffee over there. All right, so here we go. We're just seeing, we're gonna let everything just sit here. This is gonna be the main push, and I like to do my main pushes when the coffee is the early part of the roast. Later on in the roast, you can really negatively affect, really mess up your roast, mess up the coffee. So we're gonna do this push and staller out here. You know, I want to point out how big of a difference the mass inside of this drum changes how heat is applied and transferred to the beans, and how that changes the taste in the cup. If you want really bright, really juicy fruit acidity, kind of like you want that stuff, you want to take the mass that you have in your drum down. Okay, now you don't want to go too narrow, but you do want to bring how much you got in the drum at a time down. If you want sweeter, more rounded, you have a coffee that, let's say you drink it, you can just tell there's tons of oils. Now I'm not talking about roasted, dark, burnt oils. I just mean there's fatty oils in the beans themselves, and you want to develop that flavor. Put more beans in the roaster, add more beans in. They're going to develop a sweet, round side to them. So you go, you add just enough to affect how the flavor is, but you're not too much where you can't get to those higher temps. Or you add more weight and you know you're getting to a lower temp, you can really stretch things out, but you want to think about how your mass is affecting the flavor. Now, I know that that we would like to take out all variables to try to repeat batches over and over, and that's fine. But make sure that you try different coffees at different temperatures. Be sure that you're trying coffees at different weights in the drum, because it affects the flavor so much. So if you're trying to find that one profile, or that one way to roast this one coffee, throw a few different profiles at it, taste it, and then try different batch sizes and adjusting what you got going on. That will help. All right, so we're approaching. The Maillard reaction has happened, it's starting, it's begun, that's great. We're right at about 420 on the environmental temperature, and we're over 300, so I'm in the space that I'm wanting to be for beginning to draw this out. So we're coasting. We're gonna coast this thing out right here. I'm gonna bring it down. This is a little bit quicker, but still not abrupt, the way that I'm adjusting the heat here. I'm going to bring the flame down, and we're going to keep going. I'm going to bring this thing down. 1.2, okay. 1.2, so I've made my flame adjustment. The major push for the roast has happened. We want to coast this thing out. We want to keep enough room in that environment so I can give it another push going into first crack. I like to, on something like this, I like to find a flame setting that is going to not push the environmental temperature anymore, but will, over a couple minutes of sitting here, will begin to raise it up again. We'll begin to push it again, so it's not just totally dead. I didn't just like kill it and then it drops off and then I have to start the push over again. I want to retain some of this heat, but as you can see, 6.5 minutes in, the 328 on the bean temp and 427 on the environmental temp. We're beginning to go down a bit. I'm cool with that. What I'm gonna do is let it sit here. I'm gonna make my flame adjustment and we're gonna get this thing to start to turn around, and then I'm gonna open up my air. And we're making this change in the environment in such a way that we're giving this thing a pretty sturdy push, and we're changing the environment to make it go pretty fast so it can ride right through our first crack all the way up to that time. Now I'm gonna just increase the flame here just a little bit. We're gonna go up a little bit. I'm watching that environmental temperature. I want to see this thing turn around. I don't want to add too much heat, but I am wanting this to increase right here, 3.4, that's the spot. So we're gonna watch, and we're gonna see what's gonna happen here. All right, we've done a good job stalling out the bean temperature. I can see that I'm increasing just by 0.2. That's awesome. Our environmental temperature is now going to begin to increase here. And when that begins, we're going to help it. We're going to open up the airflow just a touch, and we're going to help that environment change. All right. It's going down. Look at that. Okay, that's what I need to see. So that means that I need more flame. Just a little bit. We're going to increase it up. We're going. I don't want to get too high here, but I do want to get this thing to increase. So I think this is about it. So we stopped at 4.2. We're at 8 minutes, 15 seconds, or 350. All right, so we're approaching the zone here where leading right into first crack, you don't want to be harsh to the beans. You want things to be all right. They're transforming. They're about to have the first crack happen, which is this crazy metamorphosis of the beans. Are just like completely, they're going from a non-soluble thing. You cannot brew coffee with these. Really intense, sour, tart flavors, to them crossing this line, opening up, audibly cracking, taking on a different color, becoming soluble. You can actually make a drink out of it and taste it. So that transition is so huge. And if just before that you start doing things, you start changing your airflow, you start hitting with heat, I'm not saying you can't, I'm just saying those changes affect it differently than at a different point in time around that. So what I am trying to do is, leading into that little space, I want this to be getting a gentle nudge to ride us all the way through, because I don't want to stall it once we get into that first crack. So I am still not at first crack, but I'm close. I'm going to open up the airflow just a little bit more. Right now I got just a couple seconds here, and we're going to just, my environmental temperature is increasing just how I'd like it to do. My airflow is now open. Everything is like moving nice and steady. We're approaching 10 minutes. So this is going to be a longer batch because I stretched out the browning phase, and because I have 4.5 pounds in here versus 3.5 pounds. But let's see how we can get this thing to go. So 10:07, 372, first crack. Now I'm going to keep that time in mind. We're going to see, now my crack is going, it sounds really great. My temps are increasing nicely. I'm not in any way stalling out. I have a desire to open up my airflow. I would like to do that, but I'm not touching anything. I don't want to mess up this. We got a good movement and a good push happening right now. So I'm going to get through the 380s. I'm going to get into the 390s, okay? And that's when I'm going to begin adjusting my flame. And then I'm going to get into the 400s, and that's when I'm going to begin slowly opening up that airflow. So I'm watching my temp to see if it's stalling out. I'm still increasing by 0.2. Occasionally it's 1/10, this is the stalling out. Now, here we go. I'm gonna open up my flame. I gotta change my plan a little bit because I want, okay, good. Okay, we're at 50% for air, and everything is drawing out nice and easily. We never really stalled out here, which is great. And you know, a lot of people are worried about there being an increase in this. You think, I don't know, I think of it as like a speed. How quickly is this increasing? A lot of people get concerned about this speed increasing later on in the roast, which I get, I understand that. I would be concerned about that too if it's a connection to a really hard movement in the environment. If you're making some big drastic move and then you see it reflecting on there, like, oh my gosh, it's taking off. Yeah, you're wrecking stuff. But I'm gonna pull this thing down now. Coasting it out. It's getting, the first crack is over, the snaps are done. I've pulled down my flame. And we're gonna let this thing ride it out. I'm okay with these beans increasing in their, like how fast they're going up. I'm okay with that. What I'm concerned about is not how fast they're going up or going down. I'm concerned about the environment that allowed those things to happen. Okay, so I'm gonna catch the environment by turning up the flame just a little bit. We're going to 2. All right. I don't want it to drop out all the way. We're gonna go a little bit more. I want this batch to end. Nice. Okay. I'm pulling the flame back down a little bit. We're gonna adjust to about 1 inch. I like how these are looking at, you know, a lot of times I look at the texture on the outside of the beans, and that tells me a lot. I'm opening up the airflow for 13 minutes. Okay, this is looking perfect. Okay, 13 minutes and 26 seconds. We're ending the batch at 416, 417, 416, but just on the cusp. And these did not get to second crack. They're right there, but you know, there's gonna be some smokiness to this batch. These are fully developed, nice. I can feel it when I'm pushing them around. They still have weight to them. I didn't lose a lot. There's no oil developed on their surface yet, but they are well developed. Now, you know, it's like about a 3.5 minute development time, which, you know, in some people's minds that it could seem like a long time. I always am like, how much mass? How much do we have in that roaster? That's one thing I want to know when I'm thinking also about development time. So 3.5 minutes. How much mass is in the roaster? How long was the roast? What happened in the environment during that 3.5 minutes? Those are going to tell you so much about the 3.5 minutes, more than just how long was it in there, or what's the percentage of that compared to the rest of the roast, or what temperature, or what was the ROR. These are all these factors that we talk about and think about. They're very useful, but what happened in the environment, what was in that environment, how was it affected, that stuff is gonna tell you a ton about what's gonna end up tasting. This is gonna be a great batch right here. I'm really excited about it. So, hey, thanks for watching this series. Check out our videos, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks for checking this out. We'll see you guys later.